chair of the Ward 3 Democratic Committee, and we decided to pull this together along with a school committee, with the school committee forum that was held on Thursday. These are the rules. Candidates' names have been drawn by lottery to determine speaking order. Candidates are seated in that order, first speaker on the far left and subsequent speakers in order to the right. After each question, the next candidate in order will be the first to answer. Each speaker will be allowed a 2-minute opening statement. Response to questions, 1 minute. Closing statement, 1 minute. The moderator will state, and at the moderator's discretion, restate the question. Some questions will require a yes or no, or be a multiple choice. We're really asking candidates just to say yes or no, multiple choice, whichever of those that you like, or possibly don't answer if you feel it incriminates you. Given the large field, follow-ups will be discouraged. If the moderator believes that a statement is untrue or is an attack on another candidate, at the moderator's discretion, the moderator may respond or call on a candidate to refute the offending statement. Mics will be handed from candidate to candidate. We have 2 mics for these 2 tables. Just hand them back and forth. I believe that we're doing a video, and we'll post the video after tonight. We ask the campaigns not to distribute campaign literature inside a public building. Contributions may not be solicited inside a public building. We have candidates' posters up there, and so if you need to get contact information from for a candidate, you can go over and take a picture or find the website on that. The posters will be removed after the close of the forum. The audience is going to be asked, please, to withhold your applause in order to give candidates the opportunity to answer questions. This is very intense, a lot of questions, a lot of candidates, and we want you to get a chance to hear all of them, so please hold your applause until the end. Thank you so much.
You can hear us okay, right?
No.
Yes.
I can hear you, Mary.
Okay.
I can't hear Michael very well.
All right, I'll look around and raise your hand if you need us to increase our decibel level.
Uh-oh.
Yes, thank you. Both Kristen Strezzo and Will and Barr are at a committee meeting. At least Kristen is running over, I believe Will is too, to do the opening statement and may have to return to their meeting. So you might see them pop over. Mike Bronco is also going to help with the timekeeping.
Put the sound up on the table.
Okay, so let's get going. We have a lot of ground to cover, and we'll start with the opening statements that are 2 minutes each candidate. And the order, as Michael said, was drawn from a pasta pan last night. So here you go, Holly, opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Holly Simeone. I grew up here. I graduated from Somerville High School in the original building, and I was also in the first grade class when the Winter Hill Community School first opened. I live in the same neighborhood I grew up in. I'm scanning to see if my husband made it here yet. He has not. But we did meet in high school, and we raised a family with 2 daughters. And I have over 10 years experience, and someone is calling me, thank you. 10 years experience both at the state level and at the city level in being the chair of the state's Developmental Disabilities Council for 6 years, and also serving as the current chair of the Disability Commission in Somerville. I'm running a campaign on values. I want to see us be more like neighbors. I miss knowing everyone on my street and knowing that everyone was looking out for each other. I think that sometimes we forget kindness for each other when a lot of us really have similar values and needs. It's just understanding how to get to the middle a little bit better. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Ben.
Hi, I'm Ben Wheeler. I'm a parent,
One of my daughters is here, other one is on her way. I'm an educator. I'm someone who deeply loves this city. I've been a small business owner in my career. I've hired, trained, and managed people. I've organized unions, and I've fought for housing and justice reform. That experience is why I decided to run initially, to apply what I've learned to our city government. But then I started knocking on doors and talking to people, thousands of you. And that changed everything. Every person has their own story of how city policies touch their lives, sometimes helpfully, often clumsily. I can't tell you how many times I've been surprised in those conversations, and those conversations have become why I'm running now. I see myself in the people who I'm meeting. Parents scrambling every workday afternoon to pick up their kids, young people crammed into apartments where 5 people are sharing a bathroom, retirees who've seen friends priced out and feel the loss of the I help you, you help me energy and spirit that they once counted on. And I've been to parts of the city that I didn't know existed before. Osgood Park with quarry walls. If you haven't been there, check it out. Blessing of the Bay in 10 Hills. The 4 square miles of the city are vast. And from meeting thousands of people, my care for the people in this community, most of whom I still haven't met yet, has become really a part of me. And it's made me proud to be asking to represent you. And let me just tell you, some of what I hear is that people are frustrated in so many different ways with the cost of living, with the lack of childcare and after school. Most of all, people tell me they're frustrated with changes they feel blindside them. So from connecting with many of you, my reason for running has evolved. I'm running to be your advocate. I want to represent you. Thanks.
Thank you.
This is an important race for a couple of reasons, and I have been serving as a Human Rights Commissioner for 5 years in Somerville, raising a family. I have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. As a family member of, in Somerville, I have found that we need neighborly representatives. Like, we need to have people that know each other, that are concerned about the people who want to age in place. I have seen within the Racial Social Justice Department, where our commission is, we've done focus groups, a number of complaints about the number of Somervilles that we have, and the divide of tax incomes from one part of Somerville to another. The lack of language justice is keeping us from hearing each other in public meetings. I, as the Media Pass chair, helped to build the commission up to 11 members, and I look forward to what work we are able to do. But in my time, I have helped to navigate various city departments, from the public health and the Office of Immigration Affairs, where we have prepared through coalition with our stakeholders, like Luz and many of you, who are doing the frontline work of defending and protecting our neighbors. Your training in nonviolence gives me hope and trust that this is the Somerville of the future. A Somerville that is creative and moving forward. A Somerville I long to continue to raise my daughters in. My wife is a PTA president at Winter Hill. She's an organizer for the Harvard Union of Technical Clerical Workers. I'm a stay-at-home dad and a writer. I am getting an MFA, full-time student at Lesley in nonfiction. And if you've benefited from the 50 pages that I've written just in response to your many questionnaires, I hope I've made it entertaining. It's been a learning curve. You are my teachers. I look out at you. I expect to be both given a warm hug and a slap on the face in this role. You're gonna hold me and you're gonna hold this to the line. Thank you.
What is your name?
Yes.
Christopher Ryan Spicer.
Would you introduce yourself? I saved us time and perfect timing.
Kristen is coming.
She's here. Thank you.
Hi.
Opening statement, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Councilor Kristen Strezzo. Thank you, Somerville Dems, for letting me speak. I'm one of your at-large city councilors. I'm running for my 4th term. I can't stay for the rest of the forum this evening. I'm the city council rep at the Construction Advisory Committee, and it's crucial that I attend that meeting upstairs to ensure the community voices are heard, as the decision will impact the futures of the Winter Hills and the Brown schools and us as a city. This is the work in action. So a bit about me. I'm a single mom of two in the Somerville Public Schools, and I live in affordable housing. This experience guides me in my approach of service to you. As your city councilor, I have a proven track record of advocating for you and being available to you. You are my priority. Together, we'll continue to make Somerville affordable for all residents through rent stabilization, incentivizing ADU production and other new construction, expanding utility bill support, increasing transportation options. I'll work to uphold our vision of a walkable, bikeable Somerville. We'll continue to work on neighborhood safety solutions. I've heard you loud and clear on ADA accessibility, parking needs, and small business access. Yes, we can figure out a way to have it both ways. I'll continue to advocate for climate change initiatives and environmental justice, including air quality impacts and access to green spaces. I'm proud of Somerville's proactive policies, and I'll fight to protect those policies. The city councilors you elect this year will need to be nimble, knowledgeable, and effective. Experience will matter. We need to safeguard our city's programs from Trump's funding cuts and protect our neighbors against federal status and identity-based targeting.
Thank you.
I thank you and ask you for your vote.
Mary Ann.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ann Wallace. I'm a social worker and a union leader. I've been a social worker my entire career advocating for families and children in crisis. I'm running for city councilor at large to expand on my service to our community. I grew up here. I have two children that are proud graduates of Somerville High School in their trades program. Both are union electricians. We know that our children have all different paths in life, and we need to make sure that our schools are fully funded to ensure that our children get their basic needs and have dreams. I also believe in rent stabilization. Far too long, we've seen our neighbors have to be forced out of a community that they love and that they know because of the prices of rent. I also believe in an alternative response. We need to find another way to address our mental health, substance abuse issues within our city. I believe that is through outreach. We really need more social workers to outreach our families. I love the work that Somerville police social workers do. They're an amazing group of staff. They care, they have a lot of respect for the people that we serve. I'm asking for your vote as city councilor at large so we can move forward in a collaborative effort to make sure that all residents' needs are addressed within the city. Thank you.
Thank you. John.
Thank you to everyone who helped organize this, to my fellow candidates, and to all of you for taking the time to come here and try to make sense of the 12 candidates that you have before you. So my name is John Link. I live on Prospect Hill with my wife and Liz and my two kids, Mary and Nora, who are Argenziano students. I have been a college writing teacher, an ESL teacher. I ran an ESL school, later became a software engineer, and eventually a vice president of engineering. Deciding to run was one of the craziest choices that I've made. When I saw that there were 2 open seats, though, honestly, to me, I worried a little. Nationally, we've seen, the things that we love and the things that we need kind of stripped away from us. And in part, that's because we have leaders who haven't done the work fighting for us. I want to make sure that here, nothing like that ever happens. I want to make sure that we have a city where people can thrive and where people are getting what they need. goodness, 30 seconds left. All right, so I want to fill one of those seats. Or if not me, it's got to be someone better than me, and that's fine. But I want to see the best people in there. So, we've got housing affordability, art space affordability, business affordability, all kind of in trouble. Safe routes for streets do not exist. Sidewalks are trip hazards everywhere. I've walked so many of them. And we have a Winter Hill school that has literally fallen down inside. But I'm here to help that, please.
Thank you. Jeff?
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for being here tonight and those at home watching. Thank you to Chair Grunko, Mary, and Bill for hosting us here tonight. My name is Jack Perenick. I'm running to be one of your city councilors at large because when we look at the city government that we have, so much of what matters to us at the large scale is decided by the mundane decisions that we make in City Hall. And now the most common question that I've gotten from people out speaking with so many of you in the community is, what does the city council do? And I tell people, when you look around, the prices of our homes, the cost of living here, our accessibility, our transportation into the city, so much of that is decided here at the local level. And so much about our community's ability to succeed depends not only that we have the right vision, we all, I won't speak for anyone else on the stage, but I think we all believe in a more affordable, more inclusive city, but it matters how we get there. So I've spent a lot of my time on this campaign trail talking about how we need to fix the missing middle for our housing market, why it is that we need to reduce the market rate cost of homes, and how we do that through an architect series of special permit reform, revitalizing mid-rise districts, bringing back progressive commercial revenue in this city that helps fund our cost of living. It's incredibly important to me that we talk about not only how we want to get to the city that we're imagining, but how we get there. And I think with that agreement on values, it really matters the specifics of the policies that we want to take to get there. And I encourage all of you, we're going to have an opportunity tonight to talk a lot about the way that our city's funded. We bring in $370 million in revenue a year. It's incredibly important that we discuss the deliberative process that the council will go through. And I'm asking for your vote because if I'm elected, I'll be one of the people who's focused on the nuts and bolts of city government, focusing on how we can improve the delivery of city services. And I will be a frontline, accessible person to all of you. My phone number's on every piece of literature. I encourage you all to go to jackforsomerville.com if you want to meet with me, have a one-on-one conversation, because I have prioritized that so much in this campaign. It's who I'll be if I'm elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari.
Hi, I'm Ari Yacarino. People ask me, why are you running? Well, I think at first I ran because there was an intersection that wasn't being fixed on Mystic Valley Parkway and Boston Ave. I ran because I was angry because I tried starting a cottage coffee roasting business and was unable to because it was so frustrating to do so in the city of Somerville. I decided to run because I was angry at how I was treated as a teacher in Somerville public schools. But anger isn't really enough to justify an action. But that's how it started. But after 45 miles of door knocking, crazy for a city of 4 square miles, but after 45 miles of door knocking, I have met some incredible people in the city who care as much as I do, and frankly, are just as angry as I am. And there's a lot I can give to you, all right? I've been teaching English since 2008. I've lived in Russia, Kazakhstan, Spain, Colombia, all of these places with incredible density, much more than Somerville, with a great amount of culture and families that can comfortably live in 2 or 3 bedroom apartments. I speak Spanish, I speak some Russian. I've taught in Somerville Public Schools, Chelsea Public Schools, Boston University, Suffolk Tufts, Northeastern, Bunker Hill Community College, you name it, I've taught in a lot of different places. Plus, I'm a recovering corporate worker that used to run communications for a global company of 3,000 employees. I bring a lot of skills to the table, I bring a lot of passion, and I think, to be more frank, I bring an incredible amount of love, because what I want to see is all of you healthy, happy, and in a community together. And I really hope I can earn your vote, either tonight or through more miles of door knocking, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. My name is Justin Kokoda. I'm your current Democratic State Committeeman. Thank you for your support last year if you voted for me. And I've been in Somerville for over 25 years as a renter, a homeowner, a climate advocate, a vaccine researcher, and a member of our elected Democratic Party here in Somerville. You know, my volunteerism goes back decades, helping elect our local, state, and national leaders, including leaders like Pat Jalen, our current governor, as well as Barack Obama and Joe Biden. So I basically, for 25 years, have put others first to help advance our progressive values. It's one thing to have values, it's another thing to act on them and actually devote your time as a volunteer to make those progressive values a reality. You know, one of my top priorities for Somerville is to increase funding for our housing and our schools, to help reduce our carbon footprint, and also to increase our public safety responders so that we don't rely on expensive police overtime. On the question of housing and schools, one of the greatest challenges for us is to bring in new revenue. And that can only come from expanding our commercial property tax base. We cannot put those costs on homeowners alone. We actually lose money on housing alone. So we need to actually have a reasonable plan to grow our commercial tax base and our housing stock together. If we keep them separate, we won't succeed. And we've seen for the past 20-some years that housing has become less affordable. The Trump administration has given us new challenges on the healthcare front with drastic cuts to Medicaid. So one of my priorities as a city councilor is to make sure that we provide residents the support they need so they can maintain their Medicaid status despite the confusing paperwork of the Trump administration. And I have many other priorities. I ask for your vote September 16th and November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott.
Hey folks, my name is Scott Isfan. I use he, him pronouns. I am a coder, a bartender, improv comedy producer, and former small business owner. I'm running for city council because, quite frankly, I am tired of all of the things and people I love not being able to find a home here. Every year, more of my friends in the arts, in the service industry, in the healthcare industry move away from here. And as a former small business owner, I know how hard it can be for small businesses and arts organizations to get a footing here in the city. So that is my main focus to tackle. My three biggest focuses here are going to be making walking, biking, and transit first-class travel options in the city by removing barriers to access and supporting our existing Safe Streets initiatives. Building more housing, all types. We just need more housing so that the prices come down and people can afford to live here. And then the biggest thing is tackling our plethora of pits and empty storefronts that we have across this city. All these lots that are sitting vacant and idle. We have such an engaged, creative population here. It is wild to me that these plots are sitting empty. So the levers we have on city council to do that really are a big overhaul of permitting. I've talked to a lot of folks, and permitting is a huge headache for so many folks in this city. So if elected, I want to do a deep dive and simplify our permitting processes to make it easier so that small businesses, individuals, artists can get a footing here in the city of Somerville. And that's what I have to say for now. So thank you all so much for coming out here. Thank you for hosting, and I'll let you get to the questions.
Thank you. Ben, you have the first question, and then we'll go down. In 1 minute, yes and no's are just that, and multiple choice. So, thanks, Ben. What 2 changes do you want to make?
Thank you. I want to tell you about particular policy directions after school, making our streets safer and smarter, guiding our zoning and developers so that the long-term needs of the community come first. But I wanted to take a step back first because politics is so poisonous nationally right now, and there's so much pain. I see that spilling into division locally. Our slice of the city gatherings let residents hear from staff and ask questions, and that's great, but we also need to talk to each other. One resident I spoke with asked, why not have facilitated town halls on some of the issues that are dividing us? One on street design and sharing roads safely. One on housing affordability and how we want to approach building in the city. The point wouldn't be speeches from officials, it would be hearing from each other, hearing your neighbor who was injured by a car, hearing your other neighbor who's afraid if they park too far away, they'll slip on the ice. Let's hold these conversations. Thank you.
My name is Christopher Ryan Spicer, and I prioritize a human rights approach. So direct access to city services for all residents, but especially those most vulnerable persons. To give you an idea, I speak fluent Spanish, and there's a couple concentrated areas that are a dearth of contact from the city when it comes to these services. I'm talking about young families as well as people that need to have improved affordability to age in place. They need greater rent stabilization and improving expenditures for wraparound supports for students facing food and housing insecurity. We need to keep talking about race, implement policy in our collective equity lens, enact affirmative value of Black and brown neighbors from facing displacement. So I will move the agenda for local jobs and equity procurement of city contracts. We lost almost $2 million. That could have been equity if there was equal share of those city contracts for Black and brown jobs.
Mary Ann.
Two things I'd like to see changes to would be, one, to have a free bus service within the city of Somerville that reaches all communities. There's very limited T access to some parts of the city where walking or train access is not as accessible, and I think that would be one of the policy changes I would like to see. The other policy change would be around increasing free after school and preschool and expanding those programs. The city is in dire need of some expanded after school programs and more free childcare opportunities. Thank you.
Yeah, so two changes I'd like to see. So housing, we obviously have an affordability crisis and a housing crisis in general. So we need to address that with all the tools we have. One big tool that I'd like to see is upzoning around transit hubs and with affordability bonuses attached to that. So if we look at, for example, Ball Square, right, where you see everything is about 1 story tall, you know, that could be much taller, and we can, you know, offer more to make the math better. If there's more height, we can get more affordable units. Safe streets is the other thing I really want to keep working on. You know, we don't have safe routes to school, and that is a crime. I want to make sure that we're cataloging the dangerous streets, the dangerous sidewalks, with the 10,000 tripping hazards. Those are 2 things.
Thank you. Jack.
The first thing I want to tackle is fundamental to our revenue as a city and making sure that we all as residents can actually absorb the benefits of our innovative and industrious community. And that means right now, through cost of living charges, whether you pay it through rent or property tax, you all pay 80% of the cost of running this city. We have to work on increasing our reliance on commercial revenue. The largest change that we need to make here is adding more tech and innovation in underdeveloped areas of the city. We're sitting on some of the most valuable area in the entire Greater Boston area and Inner Belt. It's underdeveloped. We haven't made it possible to build a strong commercial base there that would dramatically relieve the cost on so many residents here. People in Somerville do incredible things. They should get access to that money and be able to benefit from it. The other piece is, I really believe the council needs to use its role to be investigative, vetting city decisions, that all 11 councilors are voicing your opinions directly on new city proposals so that we can actually take account of all of our diverse interests in this community and make sure they're reflected in city decision making.
Thank you. Ari.
There's a lot I would like to do. I was thinking about this question. You know, I'd love to bring Somerville for Palestine's ballot question up and vote yes on that without a doubt. I'd love to see what the hell is going on with the Inspectional Services Department and why there's so much permitting and why Somervillians are getting quoted some of the highest contractor prices in the region, specifically because of ISD. But in addition to those 2 things, what I'm really thinking about is citywide shoveling and de-icing of the sidewalks. It's incredibly ableist and sexist that we don't already do that. Major cities around the world already do that. I lived in lowland Siberia during January and February. It's a normal thing. Talk to folks from Canada, they do it there as well. In addition to that, I'm a renter. Renting sucks in Somerville. It sucks so bad. It has taken so much of my family's money and my money away from me. There's no way I could ever live here. The word affordable means absolutely nothing in the city anymore, which is why I would love to see community-centered housing that keeps families in Somerville for as long as possible. Thanks.
So I'd say housing would definitely be the first thing, or would be my top priority. And we're facing some major headwinds. I don't know if you saw it in the Globe a month ago, but Federal Realty, one of our largest developers, said that it was not commercially viable to build more housing in Somerville in our current environment. Can you imagine the next 2 years with no new housing construction? So our city council is going to have to hopefully engage our development community and try to find policy solutions that allows housing to move forward. But we cannot have 2 years without new housing construction. On the second point, certainly, part of our approach to making housing more affordable is to actually draw in more commercial property tax revenue. And I already spoke to that point in my intro. But on top of that, climate action. The entire world, not just us, is falling behind its climate goals. And this is one of those situations where if we do not act fast enough, it will become more expensive in the long term. We need to move fast to reduce our carbon emissions. Thank you.
All right, 2 things we're going to do off the bat. One, new category permit for pop-ups. Right now you can do one-day events, or you can spend the time and money and energy to go through the full cycle permitting process that can take years to open up a business here. We gotta make a new category for a short-term pop-up that allows you to make no structural changes, just reuse the existing certificate of occupancy of the space you're getting into. That'll allow artists and small local startups to get in there and start reactivating some of these empty spaces we have across the city. And then further digging into permitting, we should streamline our process so that you don't have to go back time and time again to get permits that are going together. A demolition permit, a foundation permit, and a construction permit should you're gonna need all 3 of those if you're building a new thing. That should all go together. So those are the first 2 things off the bat.
Thank you. Question 2. Can you hear me? Okay.
Holly.
Oh, Holly, I am so sorry. All right, thank you.
That's okay. We're all learning together tonight. The 2 things that I would start on first would be communication and collaboration. Not specific to the issues, but I think if we don't figure out how to communicate with our community, between our leaders, all those who are elected, and the stakeholders, and we don't figure out how to collaborate, we're wasting money and time. And by example, I heard a story today about the brand new fire engine that is at Assembly, and that there was a plan that it was gonna be a cobble hill, and then that moved, and I know how long it takes, and there is no blame in this story, other than the fact that we have a 23-story building, and we do not have a ladder that can fit in that building in the city if something happens to where many of my friends live at Assembly. And that is no one person's fault. That's a lack of communication and collaboration and making sure everyone knows what's going on. It's something to learn from. So I really feel strongly about that.
Thank you. So question 2, Christopher, you're starting us off. Are we okay?
I started the last
Yeah, we'll get used to it. We'll get a rhythm. So thank you, Christopher. What can we do to support Somerville's small business development and preservation?
To support small business development and preservation, we need to be a community that's able to, as Scott was saying, the permitting process, it should be 4 months. It could be even faster. I've spoken to them who have 7 months, and this was during the pandemic. We see that coffee stores take 2 years sometimes to open. There's a lot of collaboration that needs to happen from engineering inspections. If it's already been approved as a restaurant, it can be as quick as 2 months. To preserve our small business community, we can continue to have these kind of food crawls we're gonna have very soon, but I'd propose one to happen in the winter, okay? I would work with our community and our businesses to preserve the knowledge and the knowledge of doing small businesses like Magoon Square, where you had 5 butcher shops. That was a walking distance. You pull a red wagon and you bring home your various fruits and vegetables from Charlotte Malagodes. Thanks.
Thank you.
To support small businesses, I think we need to really focus on making sure when a building is being redeveloped, is sold, that seems to be when most of our small businesses end up leaving our community because the rents get jacked up, and I get it, they're paying a higher mortgage, the person that bought the building, but we need to figure out a better plan on how to maintain our small businesses when buildings are sold. The other piece is actually moving a little faster, yes, on permitting, so that if they are a new business, it is not so hard for them to open and they're losing money and then they just say, forget it, you know what, I'll move to a community that is going to give me a permit a lot quicker.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's kind of already been hit on here, but just to reiterate, ISD needs more support. We need to have more people, and we also need to streamline all the permitting, all the zoning, find all of the things that are just making life harder without making life better. We also need to be tracking the data and figuring out exactly, and making it we have some data, but we don't make it very easy to see or find. And it should be very transparent and very easy to find and to see what's going on so we can hold the city accountable when they're not owning up to their part of the deal, right? The other thing is what Marianne just hit on. When we have, development is inevitable, but we want to make sure that it's benefiting us as we go through. And that means preserving businesses through things like CBAs, where we require affordable business space for our local businesses, right? We want to make sure that the cool things can stay in Somerville, and that we don't end up with just 20 Starbucks, fighting laborers unions.
Thank you, Jack.
I'll give you one specific thing off the bat, and I'm going to go rapid fire because I talked to a lot of our community business owners. In the city right now, when you're in a mid-rise district, that's our squares in our corridors, you cannot build a building that has both commercial storefront and housing by right. I would eliminate that special permit requirement entirely so that we can get more businesses at the ground floor level, keep the cheap, naturally occurring housing on top that is some of the lowest rents in the city, and have businesses that are able to open more quickly because they're not waiting on permit approval there. Another part of this is that we just have to keep up with city services. Clean, safe areas in front of storefronts, encourage more pedestrians, more people walking by, pedestrians who are, and short-term parking at these businesses that allows people to patronize restaurants, come in quickly, and be able to get that access. Another piece, as a city councilor, I will be working one-on-one with store owners to make sure that when we do encounter difficulties at locations, we're able to address them quickly, and that the city is narrowly tailoring responses to the different problems we have throughout the city.
Thank you. Ari?
Somerville was going to be either the first or one of the first cities in America to have a small business tenant protection program. It was, this idea was built by several other small businesses in the Somerville area. The current administration didn't do anything with it. So instead of us being the first, it's gonna be Seattle. Talk about a lost opportunity. If any of you guys have had small businesses, rents are not bad just for, regular folks trying to live. They're really tough for small businesses. So I would love to see through a small business tenant protection program for our small businesses, because being able to predictably have your rent really changes how you do business and can give you a lot of security that you otherwise would not have. I would also love to see an extraordinary vacancy fine tax on commercial real estate landlords that are keeping their properties vacant for absolutely no good reason other than speculation and depriving us of a more vibrant city.
Thank you. Justin?
So I would say certainly we want to make sure we eliminate needless bureaucracy from the small business side and make sure we're processing permits efficiently. That's a given. I think the challenge is, just because we're talking about small business does not mean we can't think big. We look at all the vacant lab space that we have in Somerville. Those can be filled with small business size biotechs. And what we're facing right now is a situation where many academic labs are seeing their funding cut. And there's a chance for cities like Somerville to make the case that those academic labs repurpose themselves as venture capital-backed research biotechs. And so we can actually preserve the science and hopefully grow our local economy as well. And by filling out these larger spaces, bringing biotechs, even larger pharma into Somerville, so we don't have all this empty space, it actually brings in customers for our small businesses. So that way they would be able to be more profitable and more viable. And I think, part of it is also about the city council and the, mayor's office, of course, taking a more active role in recruiting businesses to the city, not just waiting for them to come to us.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, so I already touched on pop-up permits. That'll be a great way if you want to try to open a small business here in Somerville to try that with a lower risk and a lower threshold than it takes to do currently. Also, I want to tackle permitting reform. You should be able to show up with a checklist completed, and if you've matched every item on that checklist, you get your permits. No personal opinions subjected in there. But also on the topic of preservation, I agree. I think we need commercial tenant rights. Commercial tenants have way fewer protections than residential tenants, and also affordable commercial space in our zoning.
Thank you. Holly? Yes. What can we do to support Somerville's small business development and preservation?
I'm going to go back to my answer earlier, which is about better communication and collaboration between the departments that review a lot of the information and the processes that exist now. But I also believe that we need to actually listen to our business owners just as much as we need to listen to our residents and understand what is giving them hardship as well. I think we should have a DPW team who's dedicated to making sure that our business areas, all the squares like Davis and Union, have dedicated staff who specialize in deep cleaning, who have authority to put in requests and say, this is broken, that is missing, fix this sidewalk, and make all those business areas flourishing so that our businesses do better. And safety it will also be maintained in that way.
Thank you. Ben?
We need City Hall to be a partner and not a barrier. I don't know if people know that much about how licensing and permitting works with zoning in this city, but you can open a dentist shop around the corner from Bow Market. That's permitted because that's categorized as a high pedestrian density area. But you go 2 blocks the other way down Somerville Ave and right across from Market Basket, you couldn't open one there. And I know that from talking for a long time to someone who is a dentist, has his own small business, and ran into so much what we call mishigas in Yiddish around just trying to run the kind of business we want to see in our city. I think we need to make sure that our approaches are not making the arrogant mistake of thinking these things go here and these things go there, but that take flexibility and listening as the first way that we're approaching. We can have multiple kinds of businesses that exist in different zones.
Thank you. We have our first yes or no question, and Mary Ann, you're leading us off. Do you support the ballot question that advises the city to not do business with firms that trade with Israel?
I did sign for the petition for it to be on the ballot.
Thank you. John?
Yes. Yes.
No, I think it's unconstitutionally vague.
100% absolutely yes.
I mean, absolutely not. I think it's racist and poorly constructed. It's unenforceable.
I signed for it to be on the ballot, and I will support the voters' choice on that.
I don't support it as written, no.
Yes, I signed the petition. I plan to vote yes. A lot of people will have questions. My issues page on my website has a link to the questionnaires with Shalom Somerville and Somerville in Palestine.
Yes.
Okay, this question, John is leading us off. Most of our revenue comes from property. Oops. Okay. All right. It's a large panel, so it's okay.
I'm glad Jack's looking out for me to make sure I didn't miss my turn.
It's okay. All right, John. Most of our revenue comes from property taxes. How should our tiny remaining portion of undeveloped land be developed to benefit all of Somerville's people?
Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, so it's already been cited here, the stat, it's 80%, right? Which is just far too much for the residents to really have to shoulder, especially when we keep seeing it go up again and again, right? I hear so many people when I'm at the doors talking about how, well, I found my water bill from 5 years ago and oh my God, look at it now, right? there's all these things that we've kind of waited on for decades that are coming back now. So the land needs to be used as mixed, right? So I would especially want to see commercial, right? But we can't stop with housing either. We're going to keep finding people want to live here, especially if they come to work here. So yes, we need to have more housing. Yes, we need to have more residential. And I would probably say that it's something along the lines of the flip over there, where it's 20% housing and 80% resident, 20% housing and 80% commercial in some of the new areas like the inner belt. If we can work on that, yeah.
Jack.
Folks, this is our future. This is our community's ability to be financially sustainable and to actually make the city more affordable. Right now, Innerbell is sitting as mostly 1- and 2-story buildings. It's a lot of parking lots. It's a lot of undeveloped area. We should bring that area of the city all the way up to our commercial 10-story buildings. This is one of the few areas in the city that has no abutters. It's one of the few areas that's already industrially poisoned. It's very poorly suited for housing. It's not transit accessible because you've got highways and railroad tracks. One of the single biggest improvements for infrastructure in this city we could do is improving Interbelt Road to a road size that's large enough to get a crane in there to build these buildings that would be generationally impactful for the ability of Somerville to bring down costs. I've talked a lot on the campaign trail about how our neighbors in Cambridge pay less than half the property tax we do and get 4 times the public expenditure. They build new schools like it's no trouble at all because they have that tax base to draw on. They don't have to burden the residents, and it's our community's ability to benefit from development that matters. I'm incredibly focused on these remaining areas. I'm incredibly focused on enabling our neighborhood councils through council legislation to make sure that they're able to negotiate community benefits agreements that make sure that the millions and billions of dollars that are made developing these lands come back to the people of Somerville, that it comes back to us by way of affordability subsidies, that your water bill isn't forced with increases because we have enterprise funds that are full of money. It's really the future. It's something I'm incredibly focused on in the city. I'm very glad for the question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we have to take any land. I guess I took that question as, oh, there's a grassy patch, what do we do with that? What I'm saying is build up. Again, I've lived in several different continents. Other cities are very dense, it's a very normal thing. Somerville is a big village. Boston, I would say, is a big village too. It's not actually that big of a city. So build up, and in addition to that, yeah, I would like to see some more commercial activity, kind of like what Jack was saying. Cambridge has more of that income coming in so they can do more things. In addition to that, I would love to see some third places mandated in with development. So, I tell folks I'm not pro-developer, but I am pro-development, and I think including third spaces, think like, how Iceland and Finland, they have indoor swimming pools, so that way people can actually hang out during the winter. Indoor gardens, maybe heating centers, cooling centers, places with actual bathrooms. Who would have thought we could actually have some available bathrooms in the city of Somerville? Let's include some third spaces in these big developments so that way it feels like Somerville is expanding in space rather than contracting in space.
Thank you. Justin?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Most of our revenue comes from property taxes. How should our tiny remaining portion of undeveloped land be developed to benefit all of Somerville's people?
So yeah, we definitely are property tax heavy in the city. That's really our only source of revenue except for state aid. A lot of it is residential, but residential property taxes alone do not cover our city's expenses. So Somerville, without a commercial property tax revenue, could not pay its bills. So I think our undeveloped land, particularly in the inner belt, I think I would like to see that redeveloped ideally as Assembly Square. I know that requires a lot of changes to get us to that point. But also we have to look at our current assets. So we're not necessarily going to build more, more commercial property or more residential property as we have commercial lab spaces sitting empty throughout the city. So I think our city needs to take a more assertive role in actually doing business recruitment to the city, which means direct marketing and outreach to our industry leaders. So that way when we do this kind of development, there actually are businesses waiting to fill the space.
Thank you. Scott?
Sure. So how should undeveloped land be developed? Strongly a fan of the urbanism mullet, mixed use, get commercial stores on the bottom, perhaps some business, and then as much residential as we can get. I'm still a big fan of housing. I would love to see the big dense buildings we can get and get that 20% affordable housing in there as well. That's a huge priority to me. And you know, any new development, we also have to think about making it community focused, having those community benefits agreements in place, and making it a good walkable, bikeable, transit accessible space to be.
Thank you. Polly?
Thanks. I would agree.
Mike, louder.
Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. I agree with what most people said today. I think that we need to develop areas like the inner belt up, and we should be bringing in areas within it through community agreements. We should also be ensuring that we have areas that are affordable for artists. And we could even consider putting in spaces where people could test out a new business, where they could have the opportunity to learn what is it like to bring a business here, a small business here. So people who would like to start a coffee bean shop or would like to have another business can really learn from what they're doing. We've done that with food businesses, with restaurants, but we could do that with other types of business. Because we really are a community that figures out how do we want to get something here, and we get it here, whether it be arts or other needs. So I think we could find a really good use for that space.
Thank you. Ben?
So I agree with what several people have said, that having more commercial development, especially in the places where it makes sense, where there are fewer abutters, is very valuable for the city. And we have to really recognize that the economic situation, unfortunately, is changing. And we've been diving as a city into commercial development and spent many years supporting that. And the lack of flexibility in that approach has left us really stuck with a very tricky situation where we may be finding that the costs of dealing with these lab buildings might be falling to the public if the companies that own them go out of business and they're dropped. We need to really approach these things flexibly. Housing is always going to matter to people. And so we shouldn't get too far into assuming we know exactly what businesses are going to go where, as long as we know that we can build housing and people are continuing to come.
Thank you. Christopher?
Part of this question, I don't know. Part of this question, I agree about the lab space. And Greater Boston is dealing with 18 million square footage of empty lab space. We have between 2 or 3 million square feet, but there's a real note of positivity that we are seeing in the Brick Bottom where they have 80% filled now. It's gonna come back. It's a matter of how much time we are gonna be able to float that empty space. I think that when I think of undeveloped land, I am thinking about this climate crisis, and I'm worried about places where we have developed and that are guaranteed to be underwater. We have the strengthened tree preservation ordinance that we need to see followed through. I think of the undeveloped land of 90 Washington Street and that stolen land that the abutters need to be participating in. Yes, we need that for everyone. I also want to see mission-driven supportive housing projects for the formerly homeless, those that are coming from domestic violence abuse. So I'm thinking about a particular strand of the housing.
Thank you. Marianne?
So I do agree with smart development of any land, which means strong community benefits and more reflective of what just happened with Summer Nova, because it gave a strong community benefits agreement, art space, teen space. Businesses were thought about when they were there were able to stay, and the fact that it also gave a career path. Like there's local hire, local jobs. Like when we talk about all these things, that's my ideal of development, is making sure that we are really community focused in our development, and that it truly is a benefit for all. And that's what I think of when I think of that project that just passed.
Thank you, Marianne. Jack, you're starting us off. It's a yes/no question. Would you support requiring owners to register empty homes and pay a fee to the city for keeping those units vacant?
As far as it's,
Yes?
to the maximum extent legal, yes.
Can you say the question one more time for me, please?
Yes, sure. Would you support requiring owners to register empty homes and pay a fee to the city for keeping those units vacant?
Yeah, if the fee was actually substantial and not $50,
Yes, no.
we'll say yes for now.
Thank you. Justin, yes, no.
Yeah, yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
Yes, and can we please enforce our existing empty vacant properties ordinance?
Okay. Holly?
I would have. I promise I would do better as a city councilor than operating a microphone tonight.
Yes or no? Thank you.
Yes, as legally permitted.
No, we have the lowest vacancy rate almost in the country.
We have incompleted construction, so I'd say yes.
That's not the same question.
I would say yes, as long as we're inclusive about high-rise apartments such as Assembly Row, and that they would be subject to the same vacancy requirement.
Yes. Thank you. John?
Yes, but I also want to make sure we actually do it if we say we're going to.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we're starting off with Ari, and the question is, what policies should the city council adopt to reduce homelessness?
Yeah, however you slice it or dice it, we need more homes, and those homes can't just be afforded by people who can drop $1 million on a 2.5, 3-bedroom apartment. I love my neighbors, and yet next door to me, top floor with 2.5 bedrooms went for $1 million, and the bottom floor went for $875,000. So, I feel like I'm closer to potentially being homeless, just like our folks on Davis Square or Porter and elsewhere. So we need to adopt, essentially, again, figuring out what's going on with ISD so that way we can build more homes faster and cheaper, and because at the end of the day, people are homeless for a variety of reasons, but there are lots of people you don't see on Davis who wish they had a place they could rent for super cheap, but are completely unable to.
Thank you. Justin?
I think homelessness should be treated as an emergency situation. I've heard progressives say that letting people sleep in public spaces provides them comfort or compassion. I think it's downright cruel. And I think we need to build more shelter space, number one, and then we need to have more responders. Our city is actually understaffed across the board for firefighters, for police, for mental health, for substance abuse responders. And so we have a staffing crisis that's making the homelessness situation worse. But when we have intervention, it needs to be giving people who are homeless positive options, such as shelters, such as treatment, such as rehabilitation. And we need to remember they need help, but they also need to be treated like adults. And if you've ever dealt with somebody close to you who has a substance abuse problem, I can tell you the worst thing you could do for them is enable them. And letting people who are abusing substances sleep in our public spaces is enabling them and putting their health permanently at risk. So yes, we need absolute emergency intervention, more shelter space, more positive interventions. But letting people sleep in public spaces is cruelty, and we can't allow it.
Thank you. Scott?
Yes, so the long-term correct answer is permanent supportive housing. Unfortunately, we can't snap our fingers and make that happen. So, interim, we need more case managers and social workers, ideally far removed from the carceral system so that people can be connected with the resources that already exist. Also, I want to see the city be a better partner to nonprofits and other organizations already working in this space. I've heard tell from many small businesses and nonprofits that have done work with the city that the city is slow on its bills, and if you're a small nonprofit working with unhoused folks and you can't float the bills because the city is late paying you, that's no good. I also want to remove some of the strings that are attached to city money going to local organizations working in this space so that they can operate in the way that they know best to serve their clients.
Thank you. Holly?
I'd like to just note that homelessness is more than the people that we perceive to be homeless, who may be in Davis Square and other squares. Homelessness also includes people who are living in a small 2-bedroom, but it's multiple families sharing that space. They're not housed as they should be. It also includes people who are living in their cars. We have a lot of students in the city of Somerville who thankfully are in our schools, but unfortunately they are also homeless. So there isn't one solution, but I would say that we do need, and I do like the idea of supportive housing, very much so, but we do need to understand for the people who are facing homelessness, whether it be in Davis Square or those that are in need of help, we need to have more services, more outreach, absolutely more mental health services, and really managing the situation in a kind manner.
Thank you. Ben?
So I've read that in the last 10 years, the greater Boston area has created about 300,000 new jobs, but only homes for about 100,000 more people. And that's at the root of the situation that we're in. And I appreciate, Holly, you're pointing out, we have people doubling up with cousins and friends in this city. We have people sleeping in their cars. I think we have to really take seriously the need for housing solutions that are specifically for people experiencing homelessness. Permanent supportive housing, I appreciate your calling that out, Scott. One possible model for that could look something like the 297 Medford site that's within a stone's throw from here, former auto body site that was purchased by the Somerville Community Land Trust and Just to Start. And it's going to be 50 units of affordable housing with the ground floor being supportive services. That's a model that I think can really help.
Perfect. Christopher?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What policies should the city council adopt to reduce homelessness?
Well, we appreciate that policy is one of the translation into housing. We have invested a number of, the most effective is permanent supportive housing. That has worked. It's been shown to work. It's the most healing path forward. What I do wonder is the collaborativeness of our supportive services. We have what's called the Supportive Affordable Housing Trust. Renters like you can all advocate when the city hasn't had a surplus in a long time, but renters advocated and said, we have to pay a third of our bill. You as a city surplus, you should save a third of your bill and put it to affordable housing. Put 11 million of your 33 million in surplus to. Well, the city did put 8 million into that affordable trust fund. Use of that can go to direct services now that we have a home rule petition.
Thank you. Mary Ann?
I think it's a multi-level problem that we need to address. That number one, we need to be more mindful. When I started social work in Somerville, there were multiple shelters here, but also they got displaced because of property values. So we really need to be mindful of what we're forcing out of our city. Number two, we need to address some of our own housing policy when it comes to sharing apartments, whether they be in affordable units or market rate units. A lot of families share space, and then a lot of people face eviction because of sharing space when the alternative is a family sleeping on the streets. So those are two policy types, but also we need to invest in shelter space, actual shelter space or apartments for family, people that are unhoused. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, so I think it just got touched on a little bit here. Evictions, we need better tenant protections, right? There are, that was not a minute.
Yes, it was.
Anyway, so, yep. So no fault evictions, we need to be able to get rid of those, and we also need to have rent stabilization. We're gonna need home rule petitions, we gotta fight for that. But for sure, a lot of people are made homeless just for absolutely no good reason other than a developer can condoize a place. We've got the Somerville Community Land Trust. We need to keep supporting that. We need to keep on growing that. That's something that Ben and I both actually volunteer with, and it's something that's really important that we continue to grow along with permanent supportive housing. And we also need to look at how we need to look at treatment and for people who are unhoused because of addiction. And we need to look at our partners in the area. There's a methadone clinic in Davis, it's run by Behavioral Health Network. It's a really great organization. We should be leaning on them as a city. We should be leaning on CHA, and we should be growing our ability to care for people who need care.
Thank you. Jack.
Thank you. I've spoken to the chronic nature that we need to solve on the housing front. I want to speak on the acute nature for a second. I used to work as a diversion associate for young people at the district attorney's office, and I will say one clear thing that we could do that would dramatically improve our policy response is to have a judicial program like the city of Boston does for homeless court diversion, so that when we are having people who are involved with crisis services in the city for public drug use, they're able to go to our district's Community Behavioral Health Center in Cambridge, which is focused on wraparound supportive programs, instead of being immediately committed to custody. This is something that our council can ask immediately to do by petitioning our judicial district and have a magistrate judge ensure that people who are arrested or are involved in crisis services for emergency intervention because of public drug use are able to immediately access treatment. It's something that the city of Boston has done to great effect, and it's something that if we were able to do here, we could get more people to our CBHC and get them treatment that would help solve the acute parts of this crisis.
Thank you. The next question, thank you, is Justin, thank you. It's the first multiple choice. Yes, sorry. The first multiple choice question. Cooper Mill developers have proposed a 25-story, 500-unit apartment building in Davis Square.
No.
Okay.
Let the question finish.
Finish the question.
Finish the question.
Yes. I think we're quite clear about the three choices. Build it, but make it substantially smaller. Don't build it.
I mean, they need a serious proposal. The current proposal is not serious.
Thank you.
Save the burn.
Scott.
Build it.
Holly.
It's not substantial. I think it should be smaller.
Negotiate so we can build it and get a great CBA with union labor.
Which is to say, we're saying B.
Thank you, Christopher.
Smaller with community benefits agreement.
Thank you, John.
Build it with community benefits agreements if it can be built. It's right on top of the MBTA. I'm not sure how realistic it is.
Thank you, Jack.
No, I'd like to see Davison mid-rise.
Ari.
Yeah, build it with an amazing CBA.
Okay, thank you. Scott, you are starting us off with a yes/no question. Do you support allowing residents, developers to build accessory dwelling units, ADUs, in backyards? Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. I don't have a mic, sorry. Yes.
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 Yes, I testified for it 3 years in the legislature.
Yeah.
Yep. That was easy.
Okay. All right, we're back to Holly starting us off. All right. Somerville, is that? Yes? Somerville has the least amount of green space per capita among Massachusetts' 351 cities and towns. How can we get more?
We have that land that you talked about earlier. that small amount of land left over. Obviously, we need to incorporate green space in everything that we're doing, whether it be housing, whether it be commercial space, not only for, that hasn't moved yet.
Oh, the time.
Now I have 5 minutes.
Hope you have a lot
10
to
minutes.
say.
Use what you're comfortable
Okay,
with.
I'll just
Holly.
keep going.
Use what you're comfortable with.
So green space, I think it's very important that we have green space, but I also think that it needs to be inclusive. It needs to think of the needs of all people, whether it be a large park or a pocket park, and it needs to really be built with more feedback from all residents, and it should always be fully accessible.
Thank you. We'll watch the clock for a second. Ben? No, okay, let's take 1 second and catch up.
Green space is vital. I'm very proud of the efforts of many people in the city to make sure that we're preserving as much as possible. And even though it's a slow process, I'm really excited for recently opened parks like Ken Kelly Park on Somerville Ave in East Somerville. I think one thing that we could do as a city council, where we have land use powers, is to allow more flexibility about green spaces on roofs. There are a lot of places where plantings could be done, and there could even be playgrounds. That doesn't sound, at first glance necessarily like the most attractive thing if you haven't experienced them. But someone who used to live in New York City, my kids went to preschool with a rooftop playground, and it was great. And you can have plants there. I think those are kinds of things that we may need to think flexibly and creatively about.
Thank you. I'm going to watch the clock. And Christopher.
Again, my name is Christopher Ryan Spicer again. To Ben's point, there is in the local library a wonderful proposal by design students from Brazil's expertise in this that is about converting rooftop spaces, and it's using Rio de Janeiro and other examples of much more dense spaces. It was proposed for Somerville because of the Portuguese and the Brazilian constitution of our republic. To the other question, yes, Ken Kelly Park was a beautiful story of a woman looking out, and her legacy as she was in her swan song was that needs to be taken for a park. So all of you as advocates are making a real difference in having the vision of public space. I've seen it at Junction, at the Junction Park finally opening. I just wish that at Ant Farm or some place where we could have public bathroom, seeing that possible. So we can do a lot with our public creativity.
Thank you. Okay, Mary Ann, thank you.
Green space is very important. There is such little green space, and I really think we need to be mindful in our communities and the wards, because it sounds some wards have more green space than others, and I think that we need to pay closer attention to some of the wards that have the least amount of green space, and really making sure that when we're developing properties in those areas that we're increasing green space for them. Thank you.
Thank you. John, hang on 1 second. Okay.
Got ya.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I love green space. I live near green space, and I truly appreciate it every single day. So I want that for everybody, and I think that part of that is, doing what we did with Ken Kelly Park. I think the other thing is, as we're developing larger spaces, we can also have, green space bonuses, right, where people could add more density for preserving some of the green space. I also think that when we talk about green space, we need to think carefully about what that actually means, because sometimes we see greens, we have our park, and it's more just a field of stone tiles with a couple planters, and that to me doesn't feel very green. And I want to make sure that when we have green spaces, you can actually enjoy it for what it purports to be.
Thank you. Jack.
I'm very proud to have been on the city advisory committee that wrote our most recent plan on green space in this city. I'm really proud to have helped expand the work that we're doing in this city to increase park space. I think one of the most fundamental obligations that we have is to maximize the space that we do already have in the city, to make sure that we're using our parks to install anti-flooding infrastructure, native plants. We mentioned Blessings of the Bay was a really great experiment in creating a natural habitat there that is now much more sustainable, lower cost for the city to provide, and will allow us to have a climate sustainable area that helps us with flooding from the Mystic. I also just want to say, working on green space work in the city, one of the things that struck me hard was that Ward 1, Ward 4, East Somerville and Winter Hill don't have the same access to green space. I used to live in Magoon Square. I treasured the green space that we had. I want to make sure that we preserve and enhance that space to the greatest extent possible, and that we ensure that every neighborhood has safe access to recreation space in this city.
Thank you. Ari.
I co-founded a company that got thousands of people with and without cars together to access every state in New England for hiking, biking, skiing, kayaking, and more. So I'm super serious about recreation and green space. That being said, I also probably live next to most of the green space, and that is in Ward 7. That's next to the Mystic. I get green space all the time. I love it. And like other people have said, other members of the community don't have access to that green space, and that's partially because we don't have enough buses that actually bring people, south to north. It's a pretty well-known transportation fact, so we should increase busing so people can actually access this green space I have all the time. That DCR has even said it's not really used, so we can't put a trash can there. Whole nother story for you guys. In addition to that, I love the idea about rethinking green space, like I said earlier, including third spaces and new developments, indoor gardens. Would love to have a greenway, kind of like how New York has. There's a lot of really cool design things we can do with green space around an urban environment.
Thank you.
So I definitely would not support eliminating any of our current green space.
Okay, here we go. Watching the clock.
Yeah, I definitely would preserve our existing green space. I would not want to reduce any of it. I think in context of new developments, there's a chance to actually add open and green space when we build new construction. So I think we can add green space throughout the city doing that as well. But also there are new technologies on the way that actually allow, for example, building materials to actually support the growth of greenery on their surfaces. And there's studies to show that it actually helps prevent overheating of the buildings, and it actually helps reduce your carbon footprint. So there's actually all sorts of new technologies on the way that might transform our concept of what a building should look like on the surface. And of course, there's always the option of rooftop decks, but also I've even heard about indoor farms where basically buildings are built, but the entire interior is enough farm space to feed an entire community. So I think we should definitely protect our green spaces, but also adopt an expansive concept of what it means as we move into a green economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott.
So one of the benefits of building up instead of out is that then you can have more green space. So I am a firm believer that any dense project should have in the community benefits agreement an agreement on green space and open space. I think the mention of pocket parks is great. I love the new Ken Kelly Park. Also want to talk about like neighborhood green space, right? Preserving mature shade trees by building a bump out instead of tearing them down when they get too big, so that the sidewalk is still accessible around it without ruining the shade. Things like bioswales. I notoriously love bioswales. Those are those little grassy areas kind of by the corners. And the one last thing I want to call out is, because I've been hearing this a lot on the doors, is we need more dog parks. That's one of the surprising things I've heard on the doors, is that people don't have green space for their dogs either. And everyone deserves green space in the city.
Thank you. So, we're about to ask question 10. How are you doing out there? Okay. 10 out of 17. And how are we doing time-wise? Okay, perfect. I don't know about you, but I have to stand for 1 second. That's a stiff. Okay, here we go. So, Ben, we're starting with you. It's a multiple choice question. On bike lanes, should we build more, keep what we have, reduce the number?
Build more.
Thank you.
Build more.
Build more.
Yeah, build more.
Build more on the network plan.
I'm sorry, was this a yes or no?
This was multiple choice.
Oh.
Would you like me to say
Yeah,
that?
please.
Okay, you could select build more, keep what we have, reduce the number.
Build more.
Build more if it's tied to hybrid bus bike commutes.
Build more, and I'm happy to geek out on this as much as anyone wants to afterwards.
Okay,
We've built 10 miles so far, and we've committed to 88 miles to be built in the city. So we're not there yet, but that's a lot to put in. That's our goal right now.
yes, Holly, if you had, does that mean build more? Does it mean?
I think we've committed to building those, yes, so
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you. So Christopher, we're going to you and I'm catching up now. Let's see. We set? Yes. And this is a yes/no question. Of course, we have to have one of these questions. In an effort to suppress rats in Somerville, would you support fining landlords and tenants who overfill trash bins or fail to replace rodent damaged bins? Yes or no?
No.
Yes, as long as it includes businesses and large developments.
Okay. Yes or no? Yes.
Yes, same sort of, I wanna make sure though that we actually do it and it's got teeth behind it then.
Yes, and escalating on commercial property.
Yep.
Yes, for offering the replacements.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes, for landlords and businesses, I want to be careful around tenants.
And I think for homeowners who use city.
Wait for the mic, please.
And for homeowners who use city-issued trash cans, those should be replaced by the city. And if not, yes, we should
These
be
are
fining
my
them.
yes, no. Thank you, Holly. Yes. Ben?
No.
Okay. All right, Mary Ann, you're leaving us off. Thank you. Sorry, that sounded terse. Okay. Another yes, no. What's that? A new city charter is on the November ballot, but the city has no plans to send out an information packet like voters receive for state ballot measures. Should the city tell voters what is in the charter? Yes or no?
Yes.
Who's gonna say no to that?
Let me think about no. Yes, definitely.
Yes, we should adopt the special law.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Christopher,
Oh, sorry.
started
Get a
with
chance
Mary
later.
Ann.
Yes.
Right, that's easy.
Okay, wow. All right. Another question on the charter, another yes, no. Should the proposed charter allow Somerville citizens the right to make or reject their own laws through initiative and referendum, as do 8 of 10 Massachusetts cities? Yes or no? And John, you lead us off.
Sorry, one more time, I was
Sure.
panicking trying to get a mic.
Okay. You were all so good on the last one, you can, yes. Pardon? Yeah, okay. Oh, what? Should the proposed charter allow Somerville citizens the right to make or reject their own laws through initiative and referendum, as do 8 out of 10 Massachusetts cities? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, I testified for it at charter review.
Yes.
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 No.
No.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, Jack, you have the next question. Should the new charter be approved? Yes or no?
Yes, wholeheartedly.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you, John. Okay, we're on question 15. We are moving along. Yes. And this is not a yes, no. So, and I think we're starting with, yes, thanks for helping, folks. What priorities should the city council adopt to support arts and culture in Somerville?
Housing. I'm real big on housing. You guys love how quirky and fun Somerville is. I don't know if you guys have noticed or have been in the arts, it's real tough. It's a tough gig to make a living in. And that means we need to actually build housing. I tell folks, however you slice it or dice it, we need more housing. We need to build more housing, and we need to make sure that there are enough subsidies and other things to keep those artists in the housing that we do build. It should not only be just 20% for the lowest income people in Somerville and then everybody else who has money. If I wanted to live in a city with just the rich and the poor, I would move back to Boston. So, you know, I would like to see some actual subsidies, more subsidies set aside for artists, but also just please, for the love of God, build more housing. It's gonna help so many people.
Thank you.
So,
Justin?
yep, I definitely think we need zoning that preserves our artist spaces and fabricator spaces. In new development, we should incorporate street level retail whenever possible, as well as art studios. And I think we also need to think about the performing arts as well, where they don't necessarily have the same level of support. And maybe we should add, stages or stage spaces to our parks, so that way people in the performing arts have a place to perform. Lady Gaga got her start at an LGBT festival with probably 40 people in the audience. She has since grown in popularity, and I think we should support the next Lady Gaga in Somerville as well. And I think certainly with housing, it's artist housing or housing just that's affordable. Again, as I mentioned in my intro, we have to engage our developers to break the stalemate on all types of housing. So I think the city's gonna probably have to do a comprehensive review of all of our policies and have a sit-down discussion with Federal Realty, among other developers. But we cannot have 2 years without more housing, including artist housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Yes, certainly. I have a lot of friends who are in the arts, and like I said, these are the same people who get priced out of Somerville year after year. So housing affordability is a huge part of that. Also, space affordability is a huge part of that. And that goes back to having affordable commercial space as well. And also, I'm going to bring this back around to permitting and allowing easier pop-up permitting for any space that's awaiting reuse or awaiting any kind of thing. It is so easy to put a performing arts group in there or an art gallery in somewhere, but our permitting doesn't allow that currently to happen in an easy way. So we got to fix our permitting too to let arts organizations get in there.
Thank you.
Both my parents were local artists, and when Brick Bottom was converted into loft space for artists, and it was based on income, that was a very important change in our community. And I would like us to see more spaces where artists can specifically live, but also I would like us to see us bring back adult education in this giant school, which has amazing resources, not just for art, but for all of the trades that we offer here. And I think that if we are going to increase artists, we also need to have programs for kids to get more involved in arts, because there's a lot of benefit to being an artist. It's not just about what you make, but it's about the process you go through that art. So I would support arts through housing spaces, through training here, and also let's take care of the armory and make sure that it stays within the community.
Thank you. Dan? I'm watching the
Artists are at the heart and soul of what makes Somerville so wonderful. And there have been thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of square feet of artist studio space lost in Somerville in this century. And I think that's something that we need to really take seriously. I talk a lot about housing affordability and about supporting working families, this lies at the intersection of those. And one of the things the city council can do is to make sure that we're providing the flexible zoning possibilities so that artists who want studio space that's also livable, so that they don't have to leave their studio or sneak a bed in the back, but that we're embracing these kinds of flexible uses. That's something we can really enable. Scott mentioned affordable commercial. That's something that our community benefits agreements with developers can provide so that we can use key space and have it be managed by local groups for artists.
Thank you, Christopher.
Then use the word embrace. It's an incredible statute that the political philosopher Brandon Terry was a part of, and it was a civil discussion. Who was involved? And the creation of that in the middle of Boston Common has given us another incredible symbolic gathering area. In the use of the city's resources recently in publishing about preventing displacement from the arts perspective, they created a number of very important recommendations. Among them, the call out for a statement about arts and values. And who's going to do it? I think that the city council needs to play one role, but there needs to be a number of people, again, that are part of that process about an art statement. I've asked, what would make this a queer utopia? This used to be one of the questions that was presumed would bring economic vitality. And so the real answer to that is a walkable city. If we can have a walkable city, we can be participating in all of our activities.
Thank you. Mary Ann.
So again, this is another area where we need to think about it in not just one way. It's not only housing, affordable housing for our artists, it's about studio access for our housing, it's about programs within our schools, it's about programs within our communities, it's also about spaces where they can showcase their art or performing art, whichever the case may be. Because we need our artists and our performers to have the opportunity to expose their talent to everybody so that people become more invested in the work that in their art. Thank you.
John, hang on one second. I was just making sure the clock is go. Yes.
All right, so I have an MFA in creative writing. Art is something that's very near and dear to me. And I want to make sure that we have affordable housing. Yes, that's obviously very important. Affordable art space is also very important. And here's one of the things is it's going away. We used to have one of the densest studio spaces per capita in the whole US, and we do not anymore. Central Street Studios provides a pretty good model of what we might be able to do if the city actually starts to own up to its side of the agreement, right? So we need things like that, like Arts at the Armory. Again, the city had the right idea, but our current administration lagging behind on that. And we also need to remember when we're talking about this, we are also talking about businesses. These arts bring business, and arts are business. And so when we're supporting arts, we're actually just supporting our entire city.
Thank you. Jeff, yes, 1 second. Yeah.
So whether you're a Somerville artist or you're someone like me who is embarrassingly not artistically inclined but loves to admire, we've been a family member of the Somerville Museum for 5 years. We love art, we love yard sales, we love taking part in all of this. Somerville artists can count on me to back up their right to their space. In community benefits agreements, I'm going to make sure that we go up from 5%, that we not only preserve all of the artist space that we have, but we preserve its purpose. I want to make sure that not as commercially viable elements like practice space are preserved. I want to make it easier to do as part of our residential districts. I want to work with Rep. Barber, who's been enormously involved in the Massachusetts Cultural Council, to get us a district in the city of Somerville so that we can preserve the space and get up to $1 million in grant funding for more artist space in the city. I also want to make sure that we can continue to work with the Center for Arts at the Armory, maintain that building, and continue to make really good use of our $5 million use of eminent domain there. I'm really committed to supporting artist space in the city of Somerville. I've written a lot about it on my website, and I'm really happy to be able to talk about it here.
Thank you. Okay, we have 2 questions left. Justin's starting us off with this question. My colleagues are having statements.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We are not going to ask the last two questions. I'm sorry. We will not ask the last two questions because they have been covered really well, and I'll give you a reason to appreciate. It was green space and more housing, that balance, and I think you all spoke to that earlier. And finally, it was a yes/no question around expediting permitting, and so many of you added that in more than one question. So we are going to move right into closing statements, which are 1 minute, and we're going to start with you, Justin.
Well, thank all of you for your time today, for attending, and for the great questions. I think this was a very well done forum, so props to Mike Runco and team and Eric Acesso. You know, it's been I'd say public service is in my DNA. You know, I've been doing this as a volunteer now for 25 years, going back to the point before we had a Green Line, before we had a Senator Pat Jalen, before Assembly Square is what it is today. And I was there fighting, you know, testifying at the State House for the Green Line, there on the ground knocking doors for Senator Jalen. You know, they're advocating for common sense development of Assembly Square as opposed to putting IKEA, a big box IKEA on our riverfront. Thank God that did not happen. And I've been basically with you the entire time for the last 25 years, putting my progressive values into action and trying to lift up others. And an opportunity to serve on the city council is a chance for me to serve on the government side and try to help realize our progressive goals at a time we're facing a crisis in housing, in climate, in public trust, in a Trump administration that's determined to undermine our health insurance system. So I'm ready to fight with you the entire way, and I ask for your vote September 16th and November 4th.
Thank you. Thank you. Scott?
I'll try to keep this quick because it is getting late. And thank you so much if you've made it through this far in the evening. Thank you so much to our wonderfully engaged populace here in Somerville for coming out. Thank you so much to our lovely hosts. Thank you to all of the other candidates as well for running and really caring about Somerville. It is a thrill to be running with all of you. Again, the one thing I want to hammer home is my goal on city council is reforming our permitting so that individuals, artists, and small businesses can really hit the ground running in our city. If that sounds good to you, scottisfan.com is the website. I look forward to your support in the upcoming elections, the preliminary on the 16th, and the general on the 4th, fingers crossed. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Holly?
Thank you, Mary. I'd like to also thank all the fellow candidates for being here today and all of you for being here today. And the reason why I'm asking for your vote isn't just the information that we've been able to discern today, but to have an opportunity to either meet you at the doors or for you to reach out for me directly. Because I will never claim to know everything. Every person I speak to who shares their story and talks about what's important to them or what they would like better improves me. I'm here to listen, I'm here to show up, and I'm here to really make sure that Somerville stays a place where we all want to live.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you all for being here tonight, for hearing me and for hearing everybody else. And thank you to the other candidates. I feel like I've learned from listening to you. I'm running because I want a Somerville where housing is within reach, where childcare and after school aren't just things that parents cross their fingers for, and where our streets are safe for everybody. I've spent my whole career taking on tough problems, and we have hard work ahead for this city. There's some things coming our way, or that the federal government is trying to send our way, that we are really gonna have to stand together about and stand up to. I can't promise that I'll have all the answers, and I can't promise that we'll always agree. I can promise that I have a profound sense of duty, and I think a lot of the people that I've met around the city feel one too, to each other. I think all of us deserve a Somerville city government that truly represents us. I'm fighting to preserve the soul of this city. My name is Ben Wheeler. I'm honored to ask for your vote. Thank you.
My name is Christopher Ryan Spicer, electspicer.com. I've been a human rights activist for 25 years. Gone to jail 19, 20 times, mainly against torture and nuclear disarmament. As a father, as a stay-at-home father for 9 going on 10 years here in Somerville, raising my kids, now a full-time student for an MFA in nonfiction. Last year I won a grant for interviewing 80 of my neighbors. We talked about neighbors, and absolutely the power of a block to get together and to know each other, have a block party, ask for funds, ask for a city liaison if you can't speak the other language of your neighbors. I will legislate constructively by providing a safety net to stabilize DEA programs that are at threat to federal funding. I will conduct investigative powers, just as I have for 5 years on the Human Rights Commission, to ensure that we are holding public discussions and open hearings that really do track and monitor the progress towards the Safe Streets Ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody that came out. Thank you to my fellow candidates and everyone who put this together. I'm asking for your vote on September 16th. It's been a long night. My experience in public service, I've been committed to public service in Somerville and beyond. I know how to work collaboratively with other municipalities. I know how to work collaboratively with other city councilors. I've worked at the state level. I know what it's like to work with budgets, that the revenue coming in is what judge what's going out and what's being paid for. I know how to negotiate. I will use my skills to really work out what's best for everybody and to be inclusive. I also I just want to thank you all.
Thanks, Mary. John?
So, as everyone else here said, thank you. Thank you truly to all of you. This is like, we're 2 hours into this. Could have watched a very nice movie in this time. Thank you to all my candidates who are amazing. I just want to say, so the reason, again, that I'm running, to remind you here, is that I think that Somerville is an amazing place, and I think that it's an amazing place that still has work to do. We've got our spaces, whether that's housing or art space or commercial space, are quickly becoming less and less affordable. We have streets that don't work for everybody. We're down a school, right? We have work to do, and it's gonna be hard, and I think that we're up for it, and I think I'm up for it. I'm running because I want to make the kind of place where me and my family, and families very different from mine, can be great. Please vote for me on September 16th.
Jack?
Thanks, everyone. This fall, you're going to vest 4 people with an enormous and very specific responsibility for tailoring the future of our city. I think that it really matters that we use the incredible power that our council has that shapes the physical world around us and our community's ability to continue to stay here and thrive with incredible detail. I've tried to go about the last couple of months sharing my specific approaches for how we should do that. I've tried to talk about how much process matters, and I really want to thank all of you for staying involved with that. I really want to reiterate how much it's important that our council actually acts on all of our values, because I think we have some really nice agreements, part of why I love this community, but it matters that we're delivering for people, it matters that we're getting results, and I hope if you're interested in that and you're interested in supporting me, you'll visit chaptersomerville.com. I will be here until Mike kicks us out, and so please come over and have a chat. Thanks.
Thank you. Hang on 1 second, Aaron. Okay.
Somerville has a 40% turnover rate every 2-3 years, meaning almost half the city just kind of leaves every 2 or 3 years. Not a great community formation, if you ask me. That's why I've hammered on housing so much tonight. But beyond that, I've been teaching refugees and immigrants for almost 20 years. I'm surprised we didn't even talk about ICE tonight. I want to make it very clear, ICE is the enemy, and they should be treated as such in Somerville. Beyond that, I co-founded a business. I have small business experience. I'm a recovering corporate worker. I bring a lot of skills to the table, and really importantly, and maybe you can ask your fellow candidates tonight, I am willing to be a city councilor for you full-time. full-time, I will be there for you. Whether you need a phone call, a Zoom meeting, or you need me to show up at your house, I will be a full-time city councilor for the people of Somerville, because the only boss I want is you. Thanks.
Thank you all. Weren't they fabulous? Yes. Again, I want to thank all of the folks who worked on the forum this evening, folks who submitted questions, all of you. I wish someone could count how many people are in the audience, at least 200. This is why we love Somerville. So thanks, and take advantage of the offer for folks to stay around. We concluded a little early, so take advantage of that time. Make sure all of your questions were answered. Thanks, everyone.